Hello, hello. Oh, my camera's not on. Hold on. Camera. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I'm here, guys. There we go. Can you see me? Can you see me? All right. Hopefully you can see and hear me by now. Okay. Hello. Thank you for joining me for Lunch with Leo. And it's going to be the last Lunch with Leo for the year 2024. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. And so I'll be doing a couple of things to celebrate and to commemorate and all that kind of stuff. I got to turn this heater towards me. This room is cold. For some reason, the vent is open and the air comes out, but the air comes out cold. I don't know why. So my office needs its own little heater. So today I'm going to talk about how do we deal with the ending of this year, looking forward to the new year, 2025, particularly if you're newly widowed and you lost your spouse this year in 2024. It could be a big one for you. For some reason, I've said this before in several videos, but that milestone for me, that first New Year's, when Dewey died in 2017, so that New Year's when it turned 2018, it really was, it just was really a hard mental transition for me because for some reason I just looked at that calendar, and when I turned the page over to 2018, like even though he had died in 2017, he died in June. Take that thing off. Sorry. He was still alive at some point in 2017, right? So even if it was December 31st, he might not have been alive on that day, but he was still alive during that year. So when 2018 came, it was just a stark reminder to me that it was the first time, the first calendar year that Dewey would not be alive, not a single day in that year. And so that thought just really haunted me and bothered me. And I didn't know why. And I thought I was, the only one. I thought it was really strange for me. So it turns out that a lot of people have that as a trigger. And so I guess it's fairly common for people to be triggered on New Year's for that reason. So at least I knew I wasn't alone. I wasn't really strange. Then I've come to realize that pretty much no matter what you think and no matter what you do and how you act and how you feel, none of it's too weird or strange that somebody out there hasn't experienced it or expressed themselves in the same way. So, if you talk to enough people and you join enough groups, you realize that there are similarities to the way that we grieve a lot of the times. And so you're bound to find somebody who's like, yep, I had those same issues. I felt the same way. I did the same kind of thing. So we've got Meryl that's here. Great to be here live. Cindy says, this is my third New Year's Eve alone, missing him something awful. Cindy, I'm so sorry. And I totally understand how you feel and how that can be. Yep. And then Meryl says it's, hello, Cindy. It's the first New Year's Eve. And Idea Factory joined a bit late and waving. So you haven't missed anything with the intro. So thank you for joining in. And of course, if you're catching this on the replay, then you can watch it as well. You won't be able to enter in the chat, but if you have any feedback, feel free to put that in the comment section below. So today what I want to talk about is just a few things that we could do to help us transition from wrapping this year up and then looking forward into the new year without looking at it as you're standing on a cliff looking into a cavern and feeling like it's hopeless and with all this dread that a lot of people do feel when the new year, rolls over. I do have notes on the other side of the screen. So if you see me looking over here, I'm checking my notes because I don't want to miss any points. But, and I think that JP just came home from work. I think I heard him, I heard his boots clomping down the hallway. So first of all, what we want to do when we're looking at New Year's and rolling over from one year to the other is that you want to just acknowledge your the fact that you had unique challenges this year. And so do not beat yourself up for things that you didn't accomplish or things that you didn't do, or maybe you dropped the ball on a few things and some things happened. And hello, we're live. He's dropping off his stuff. um, but yeah, I recognize that you had unique challenges this year, and so don't beat yourself up about things that you didn't get to do, things you didn't accomplish, goals that you set that maybe you didn't reach. The fact that you're here and that you survived the year, just give yourself a pat on the back and tell yourself that you made it. You made it through this year, and you're still here and you're surviving. Um, and then just know that look at the new year as a chance to have a fresh start. And I know the whole cliche, new year, new me, and making New Year's resolutions. And some people just throw that out the window and say, well, I just don't do that, because you make resolutions in January 1st and then, you break them by January 10th or whatever. But however you want to look at it, it is a chance to make a fresh start in some way. So it just depends on how you decide to look at it, how you decide to prepare for it, and how official you decide to make your resolutions, your goals, your intentions, some manifestations, whatever you want to call that. Just look at it as a fresh start. And so let's talk about how we can make those happen. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to reflect over the past year. And so not just the death of your spouse, because the year consisted of more than just that, although it may have been your focal point, especially if you're fresh into grief. Hold on, I'm very thirsty. I went to go make myself some coffee today, and I have tons of coffee pods for my Keurig, but guess what? They're all decaf. So that's not helping me one bit. So I'm trying to drink some soda. I'm trying to get woken up. I'm on my medication holiday too. So it's a little hard for me to wake up, and it's hard for me to stay focused. So getting tasks done for me right now is a little bit of a challenge through at least halfway through January, but I'm making it. That's why I'm having to rely so much on my notes, because my brain is just not coming up with things on the fly as easily. um, so you might want to just reflect over the past year by honoring the memory and the legacy of your spouse. You might want to write them a letter. You might want to draw a picture. You might want to just create something that commemorates their memory, just to signify that even though you're moving into this next year, technically without them, that you're still going to take their memory and their legacy with you. You're going to carry it with you into this new year, and you're going to keep that and hold on to that in their honor. And also just think about some things that you might want to change for this year. So we're going to talk about how to think about that and how to pinpoint those things in a moment. So next, what you want to do is you want to set gentle intentions for this year. So you don't want to necessarily make a hard list of specific goals and timelines and things like that, because you got to be flexible. You got to realize that the best intentions, are just that, intentions. And a lot of times if we set up fast and hard rules for ourselves and real strict guidelines and goals for ourselves, when we don't reach those, and they're just arbitrary anyway, but when you don't reach them, then you feel a sense of like you didn't accomplish what you were supposed to accomplish, or you have a sense of a failure because you didn't reach the goals that you set for yourself. So just because you did not reach the specific goal in that timeline does not mean you didn't grow, does not mean you didn't improve, and does not mean that that you didn't reach some sort of milestones. And so rather than hard, fast goals for yourself, just set these gentle intentions and think of it as more of a broad idea than a specific list. Also, what I'm going to do, and I've seen a lot of people do this in the last few years, is pick a word or a phrase that's going to be your motto, that's going to guide you through the year. And that whenever you're not sure where to go, where to turn, or what to do next, fall back on that phrase or fall back on that word and just think about it, and ask yourself, is what I'm about to do going to get me closer to that word or that goal, whether it be acceptance, healing, calming, peace, whatever it is, whatever that main goal that you would like to accomplish for this year, turn that into a phrase or a word and let that be like your guiding light this whole year. So I've decided that my word is going to be growth. I feel like I've stagnated a little bit, and I did quit my job this year, and so it's been hard for me to kind of remember and give myself like an identity, right? Because I for 26 years I've been a school teacher, so that's part of my identity is saying, "Oh, well, I'm a school teacher." When I talk to people, "What do you do?" "Oh, I teach school. I'm a school teacher," and the past several years, have gotten more and more sympathetic when they hear me say that. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But I'm no longer a school teacher. So I can't say, "Oh, I'm a teacher" anymore. And so when people ask what I do, I have a hard time coming up with a specific, title for myself. I'm a YouTuber. That sounds like I'm some teenage kid with a gaming channel or something. And I know that's not what it is. And so I'm a content creator. Well, most people don't know what content creation even is or means. I'm a business owner. Well, that's a little vague and broad. I sell stuff on eBay. Well, it's so much bigger than that, right? So it's hard for me to even think about myself as like, what am I, or what is my title, or what do I do? And also, my business is very small financially, right? And so I'm still not to the point where I have replaced my teaching salary. I'm to the point where I've replaced my part-time teaching salary, so that's good. But I haven't replaced my full-time teaching salary, and we really need for that to happen. And we really need for it to happen this year. And so, growth. I'm going to use that word as my main word this year, whether it be growth mentally, growth physically, like I want to get out there and get in better shape. I want to grow as a person. I want to grow as a Christian. I want to grow as a wife. I want to grow as a mother. Growth is just what I want to do as far as all of my goals, whether they be business goals, personal goals, family goals, etc. I want to grow this YouTube channel. So everything that I want to do has to do with growth this year. So that's going to be my goal. And so, and also you want to set realistic, manageable goals that take into account that you are on this grief journey. Okay, so don't set these huge mountainous goals for yourself that is very unlikely for you to be able to reach. And if you do have a really tall goal to reach, that's fine, but break it down into smaller parts so that you can hit milestones towards that goal and get yourself there without feeling like, well, if you haven't reached the total summit of the mountain, if you got halfway there, well, you still got halfway there, right? And so just be gentle and kind to yourself, and try to be realistic with whatever goals that you set for yourself. You might want to create some new traditions. And we kind of talked about that with the holidays. There's a lot of questions sometimes on, do I take all the old traditions that we have and keep them? Do I trash them all, and do I come up with a whole bunch of new ones, or do I do a mix of both? So, maybe just start a tradition for your own self. That's something that's completely new, that brings a smile to your face. It's something that you decide to do every year, and just make it just for yourself. Just make it new and fresh, and so that it's something that you can do to make yourself feel good and to give yourself some new good memories that you can create for yourself. Um, how about organize your space? So that's been something that's really been bothering me lately. Is I've had a lot of clutter. I'm still holding on to a lot of paperwork and things that I probably, after 7.5 years of being widowed, I probably don't need anymore. So I would like to go through Dewey's old things, and not just to get rid of stuff, but to go through the important stuff and organize it a little better, so that I know at the drop of a hat where that paperwork might be, and I can find it and access it easier without digging through a lot of old useless paperwork that doesn't really mean anything anymore. I'm holding on to a lot of clutter just for myself personally. And so my basement is a total wreck. If you've seen my other channel, my cereal crafting channel, I've gone through a series of videos. I'm about to post some more to show the progress of how far we've come, but there's a lot of stuff down there. There's a lot of clutter, And some of it needs to be thrown away, but most of it is inventory for my eBay site and my whatnot site that I'm going to sell. And so it needs to be organized. It needs to be inventoried. It needs to be pictures taken. It needs to be listed on eBay, all those things. And so I can only do that one small part at a time because I'm not real good at organizing things. I get sidetracked easily. I get bored easily. I have all these ideas and I have a hard time like nailing down one specific idea of how I want everything to go. And I tend to overthink and overplan every task that I put before myself. So I'm going to work on that, but maybe choose, one little area, maybe choose an area that you haven't been sure if you were ready to clear out yet. Like maybe look at the closet and think, okay, is this the year that I'm going to clean out his things from the closet? And if you feel like you might be ready, or if you feel like you might be close to ready, just think about why aren't you ready yet? What is causing that? I don't want to say hold up because, we have to do it in our own time. But sometimes if you feel like you might be ready, you're not really sure why you're not quite there yet. Sometimes it just has to do with processing through some emotions and feelings and the significance that those pieces have on your healing process and your grief process. And once you realize what those things are and what they mean to you, it might be easier to actually let go of the physical things. Like if you're going to look at his closet or her closet, um, get rid of the things that don't matter, like their underwear, or their generic items of clothing that they barely ever wore, and you don't even have a whole lot of memories of them wearing. And they don't either give them to Goodwill or give them away, or if they're not even useful, then throw them away. And then you can take the things that really mean a lot. Like if they had a bunch of clothing that meant a lot to you and you don't really want to get rid of the clothes, then put it together in a bag and hire somebody to make a stuffed animal out of the clothing or a quilt out of the clothing. T-shirts, shirts, dresses, bags, anything that has fabric can be cut up and turned into a memory quilt. So find somebody on Etsy or find somebody on Facebook or ask me and I'll find somebody for you. Then, we'll figure it out. But you can take all those pieces of clothing and have them cut up in little sections, and you can have one big blanket made out of all the special clothes that you had. And then you can feel free to let go of the other things, and rather than just have a closet full of clothes that nobody's going to wear, that nobody sees but you. But for some reason you have that, that tie, and you just aren't really ready yet to get rid of them, or to dispose of them, however it is that you decide to do. And if you don't get ready to do it this year and it never happens, that's okay too. It's okay. It's on your own timeline, right? Let's see. I'm going down my list. Also just remember that when you organize the space around you, it helps your mental clarity as well. Like when I'm surrounded by a lot of clutter, I'm a clutter person, right? I just am. And so clutter tends to, you can see behind me, clutter tends to just, pile up. I have papers piled up. When I was teaching, I never had a clean desk when I was a teacher. I had stacks of papers everywhere, but I always knew where everything was because I needed to see it in front of me. I have trouble with these drawers behind me because when I don't see it, I forget that I have it and I end up buying it again, or I end up because I don't know where it is and I lose it. So when I start putting things away where I can't see them, I lose them. And then I can't, and I might as well be getting rid of them or throw them away because I don't have access to them anymore because I don't know where they are. And so I'm trying to do better with that, like putting labels on drawers and putting like items in different places so that I know where they are. But it's just not really how my brain works. So anyway, the point is when things start getting really cluttered around me, it does start to bother me. Like I like having a neat space around me, but at the same time, I don't function very well when I can't see anything around me. So I have to strike a balance between what's acceptable amount of clutter. And my husband would say it's totally different because he's a neat freak. So he doesn't like to see any clutter anywhere. That's just the way our brains work, right? Build a support plan. So just make sure that you've got people in place that you can call on if you're ever in a crisis mode. Maybe make a list of people and their phone numbers so that if you are in a moment of crisis that when we're in crisis, our brains don't really function the same way. And so sometimes it's hard to even remember where phone numbers are or where how to contact people. And so, or even if it's a list of like all of your assets or your health insurance number, or, just emergency pieces of information that somebody could access quickly if something happened to you and they needed to help you quickly. And just, maybe have a list of people that you could call on quickly. And if you ever had an emergency and you needed help, in a short amount of time. You might want to think about joining a group or seeking some type of help. If you've gone on this journey by yourself up to this point, you're like, I don't need therapy. I don't need to talk. I don't need help from people. I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm coping just fine. Sometimes you might think that for a while, but just because you haven't needed therapy up to this point doesn't mean that you're not going to. Some people might never need to go to therapy. Some people might need therapy on a more consistent basis for a longer period of time. So just know that there's seasons, and there's ebbs and flows to this journey, and that sometimes you might go months and just be just fine and everything's fine. And then something happens, who knows what, a trigger or some other crisis hits your life, or maybe just mentally you just hit a down area, and you're not coping as well as you were. And it's surprising to us sometimes because we're like, I don't understand this. I've been fine for the last 4 months, and now suddenly I can't stop crying for the last 3 days, or whatever it might be. Sometimes it's a dream that triggers things, or a memory that triggers things, or a milestone. And so maybe just it might be time to consider seeking out some sort of resource for you that might help you. So that when you do get to that point where you might need a little extra help, then you know where to look, whether it's a YouTube channel like this one, or whether it's a Facebook group like ours, or whether it's a grief share, which is a free, sometimes it's a very nominal fee, like $5 or $10, but usually it's free through a church. Grief share is just a group therapy that is, like I said, it's Christian based. So it's usually housed at some church somewhere that anyone who has lost a loved one to death has can sign up for it. It's I believe it's 13 consecutive weeks, and they just do weeks 1 through 13, and then they turn around and do 1 through 13 again. So you can come in at any time and start at any week and go through the whole 13-week process. It's not just for widows, though. It can be if you've lost any family member that has died. But a lot of times, several widows will be in there, and then some other people, like somebody who's lost a child or a sibling, might also be in there as well. But anyway, just it might be time to think about, would I benefit? Because a lot of times we go through and we think, I don't need any help. I'm doing okay. But sit down and ask yourself, but am I really? Just because you're doing okay, could you do better if you had some other resources, and you had some therapy, or you decided to see a counselor, or you decided to see a doctor, or you decided to take medication? All those things are options for you. And I'm not pushing any of them. I'm just saying that they're available. And just because you're doing okay, could you maybe do even better if you had some other resources available to you that you accessed? So just maybe ask yourself that. Also, I talk about this all the time, but prioritizing self-care. So, and I'm going to lecture that all day long about every part of our grief journey. And I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. But you need to have a routine, like a daily routine, even if it's the bare minimum. Get up, brush your teeth, fix your hair, get dressed, and, take a shower on your whatever shower rotation that you have. And sometimes just getting up and doing those basic things for yourself will help to get you moving on the right track and moving towards just being on a better routine. It sets you up for a better day, and it gets that momentum started. And I think I'm about to have another breakout. I feel my arms are getting tingly. So, and my face, I can tell it's getting tingly. Sometimes I have these different B vitamins that I take, and I just spread them out through the week in my little weekly thing. And I never can figure out which one I just took when I have a histamine response to one of them. And I haven't figured out which one it is because they're all white capsules. And so whichever one I took this morning, it's about to hit me, and I'm going to start turning red in a minute. I think I've done this on camera once before as well. There's no medical emergency. It's just a histine reaction or histamine reaction or whatever you call it. But it's okay. It's not a dangerous thing. It's just more uncomfortable and embarrassing than anything else. Anyway, we're talking about prioritizing self-care. I'm just talking about supplements, right? So, go to the doctor and make sure that you get checked up on. If you're over a certain age and you're a woman, we got certain yearly checkups that we need to have. We got to get mammograms is it every 6 months or every 12 months, every 2 years? I'm not even really sure, but whenever that's supposed to happen, go get that taken care of. If you have medical issues and you're supposed to be taking your medication, then make sure you take your medication on a regular basis. Set an alarm on your phone if you need to, so you don't forget. And just make sure that you're eating right. Make sure you're not skipping meals. Make sure that you're choosing healthier foods more often than not. Doesn't mean you have to be on some strict diet, but we all know that sugar is not good for us, and we all know that um, protein is good for us. And fruits and vegetables are debatable depending on which camp that you fall under. But if you're one of those that fruits and vegetables is you feel like you need those to get your vitamins and minerals, then make sure you add that to whatever it is that you eat every day. So if you're sitting around eating cereal and we talked about this the other day, but goldfish, as your cereal is your breakfast and goldfish is your lunch, and ice cream is your dinner or whatever that might be. A lot of times those are comfort foods and they make us feel better in a few minutes, but they're not doing any good for our body. Even if it doesn't make you overweight, it's not good for your heart. It's not good for your insulin response and all that stuff. And so make sure you're drinking water, make sure you're eating right, and just taking care of yourself. And I need to do the same myself because I haven't been making very good food choices lately. So I gotta get back into it. Um, and so, like I said, just make that routine where you're just taking care of your own physical needs, at least the basics, and then try to add things on. Routine stacking is what I call it, but I talk about it in my pivot course. There's all these exercises that we go through specifically, and checklists and videos and all the instructions specifically on how to create routines for your life and how to stack routines together to just put yourself in a more healthy mindset. It's mindset shifting, it's pattern interruptions, things like that. And if you're interested in that, there's a link below, but it is griefpivotcourse.com will take you there, and then you can follow you can just look at the information and see if it's something that might be of value to you. It's just another resource for you, especially if you're stuck in one of those grief ruts. Um, let's see. Give yourself permission to feel. So just because you're healing doesn't mean you're still not going to have sad days and bad days and rough days. And it's not a linear progression. It's a roller coaster, right? So we're gonna grow a little bit, and then we're gonna have some setbacks. And then we're gonna grow a little bit more. We're gonna have some setbacks, and so it's never gonna. However you're feeling in any given day is not how you're always going to be feeling. So when you're having great days, that's awesome. But just know you're not going to have all great days, obviously. When you're having tough days, you're not, just remember that you're not going to have all tough days either. Everything's going to be up and down. Life is a series of really high moments and really low moments, and most of our life falls somewhere in between those two. And so, we're either moving up towards those high moments or we're moving towards those low moments. And, our preacher always says you're either just getting over a tragedy, or an obstacle. You're either just getting over one, you're in the middle of one, or you're about to hit another one. So like at any time in our life, we're in one of those places. We just either got over a stumbling block, or we're in the middle of a crisis, or we're about to hit another one. It's coming up soon. And so, life is a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're gonna get. All right. And so just remember that this whole healing journey is a journey. It's not a timeline. It's not a checklist. It's not it's not clean and nice. It's messy and it's unpredictable. And there's no instruction manual on exactly how to do it because everybody is a little bit different, and all of that is okay. Um, and also remember that as you move forward into this year, that just because you're moving forward and you're healing doesn't mean that you're leaving your spouse behind. And it does feel that way sometimes. It feels like the farther you move ahead, the more you're leaving the memory of your spouse behind. And that's a lot of guilt involved in all of that. But there's ways that we can mitigate that. There's ways that we can bridge those gaps. And I made a whole video about that. And I'll update that and put it in the link below, but it's called moving forwards while walking backwards or something like that. I can't remember the exact thing, but I'll put a link to it below. And I just talked about how it's really hard to reconcile the feelings of trying to move forward and heal without feeling guilty about leaving the memory of your spouse behind, especially when we're moving into a new year. Oh, moving to this new year, new me. Let's look forward and let's celebrate and let's this fresh start. And in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, this fresh start without my husband. Like you're leaving your husband back behind in this calendar year. If he died in this year, she died in this year, and you're moving forward without him into this new year. That's a hard jump to take, and to look at it with, you know, with any kind of joy or with any kind of excitement or with any kind of a positive thinking, because you're like, yeah, but he's still back there. You want me to jump in feet first, right? And do this new thing, but I'm doing it without him. And so it's not something that we want to do, but it is something that we need to do. And just remember that it's okay to set new goals for yourself, because you are a different person now. Like you are in a different life than you were before. You are in a life of creating a life for yourself and maybe your children, if children are still living at home. And so it might be time to reevaluate your goals. Sometimes people have goals with their spouse that, they have these lifelong goals like, oh, we're going to retire, we're going to get an RV, and we're going to travel the nation. Okay. And then your husband dies. So you're stuck with this, like, do I continue with the same goals that I had with my husband? Do I retire and get an RV and travel the nation by myself? Or do I make completely new goals and I sell my house and move into a condo and live in the city and, open up a shop or whatever? Like, so some people, and it doesn't matter which one you decide. Like, either one is okay. But there comes a time when we become widowed that we have to sit and reevaluate what our goals are. Are they still the same? And if they are, that's okay. But recommit to those same goals and then try to figure out how those goals need to be readjusted for yourself now rather than as a couple. And so do you reevaluate that same goal and then do a little adjustment and then continue on? Or do you do something completely different, something that you never thought you would do, but you never really wanted to do until you were by yourself? And now you're like, well, now I'm just doing this for myself. I'm setting goals just for me. This is not something that I would have done if my husband was here and we were doing things like he wouldn't have wanted to do this with me, but this is something that I really want to do. So do you scrap all the old goals and then pick all these new goals? You can, and it's okay if you do. It's totally okay if you do. There's going to be some guilt there because anytime we make changes and we grow, we are going to feel guilty about what wasn't. Okay. And so that's okay too. It's okay to feel the guilt. The guilt doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing or that you're making the wrong decisions. Okay. It's a hard transition to move forward without your spouse, no matter what you're deciding to do. So think about, and then some people are like, well, maybe I'll do a little mix between what we were going to do and what I want to do and change the goals. And so just think about your goals. Think about the goals that you had as a couple. Reevaluate and decide, are those still your goals by yourself? If not, what could your goals be? And so maybe rewrite your long-term life goals, considering what your new situation is now. And if you can't think of those, it's okay. It's okay now, but just know that without goals, then, we're kind of stagnant in this life, and it starts to make us we start feeling like we don't have purpose. And if we don't feel like we have purpose, then it's easy to get in a rut and it's easy to get into depression and let the grief take over. So we don't want to do that. We want to kind of keep moving forward. We want to keep moving setting goals for ourselves, setting smaller milestones for ourselves, and reaching those milestones. So maybe sit down and write some goals for yourself for maybe this year, or make a 5-year goal, or maybe make a retirement goal, or whatever it is that you're looking out into the future for your life. Reevaluate what those goals might be, and then backtrack into what steps do I need to take in order to make those goals happen. All right. And then the last thing that I want to do is encourage you. If you haven't been journaling, I want to encourage you to start journaling, um, because the new year is a great time to start a new project like that. I started this YouTube channel on January 1st. I think I actually started like December 31st, but the point is, I knew that the new year was coming, and I wanted to start my YouTube channel at the beginning of the year so that I could track the progress. And then I can say, well, in this year I did this many and this many videos of these many subscribers, and how much money I made and stuff like that. I got to take this jacket off. And so that year, I started a new YouTube channel. And then a couple years later, I started another new YouTube channel on January 1st. And it was a Bible reading YouTube channel. And all I did was read the Bible in a year. Sorry, I got to take this off. You can see my arms are like, can you tell? Yeah, see? I got like a little rash going on right there. A little rash going on right there. Now it's on my neck. Oh, okay. Anyway. I have to take some Benadryl, but then it makes me tired. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Journaling? Yeah. Oh, I started the YouTube channel a couple years later where I wanted to read the Bible. And so I thought, well, if I make a YouTube channel, and that will basically help hold me accountable. And so every day I read, went through and looked up a little list where it says read the Bible in a year, and it tells you exactly what books to read, and how much to read each day. So it kind of spreads it all out. So I did that. I actually went over a little bit, like by October, I think, or by the end of the year, I was still like in the October stuff. So it took me about a year and 3 months, but I did get it finished. And so I read the whole Bible out loud, and I recorded it on a YouTube channel. And it wasn't really for money, or it's not monetized or anything. I think it has like 20 subscribers or something, but it was just something to keep me accountable. So I did that, and I started on January 1st. And so I like to start, new projects at the beginning of the year so that I can track how far I've gone in my growth and things like that. So for that same reason, if you haven't been journaling, it'd be a great time to start journaling at the beginning of the year. So maybe tomorrow, which is New Year's Eve, make a journal entry, and make that entry in a reflection of what happened to you, like the big moments that happened to you this past year, or some big transitions that were made this year, even if you've been widowed for a while. And then and then either that day or the next day, just make like an overarching list of your big long-term goals, some short-term goals, just some things like that. But mostly it's a snapshot of where are you mentally right now? How far have you come? How far would you like to go? And, just spotlight some of the areas so that you know which direction that you need to start walking in, if that makes any sense. And so if you need some journal pages, some blank journal pages, I have those on my website. It's onehappywidow.com/journal. And all you gotta do is type that in, print them out. They're free. And you can have like some journal templates of pages that you can copy, or just pick up a notebook and just start writing, and then date it at the top. And then what I want you to do, the best way, one of the best tools for journals is not just writing to get your thoughts out on paper, but also so that you can reflect back and see how far you've come. And so I wouldn't wait the whole year. I would do it maybe every quarter, or every time the seasons change or something like that. But at least every couple months, go back and read your previous journal entries, because it's going to give you an idea of where you were at that time. And you'll start to realize, wow, I really have come a long way, farther than you will expect. And so if you haven't started journaling, I highly encourage you to start doing that in January, so that you can journal all through the year, and then you can go back and you can read your journal entries, and you can see the progress that you've made through your grief journey, or through your life journey, or however you want to see that. All right. I'm going to go back and see if I see any other um, chats that I want to highlight. LaDonna from Oklahoma is here. Sonia says it will be her first New Year's as a widow. Local Treasure says my second. He passed on 1/11/23. I'm so sorry. So you're coming up on that milestone. Um, yes, and that's what she said later. Pam says my first as well. I keep thinking that I'm leaving him back in 2024 while I'm made to move forward. Yeah, that was the pretty much the mentality that I had when I was moving into the new year. It was like I was I was moving, I was going to the new year, but I couldn't take him with me. And so we had been in that other year together, at least part of the year, but like I couldn't take him with me into 2018. And that was a really sad thought for me. Um, let's see. I can't imagine. Christy Johnson says, I can't imagine turning the calendar to my first year without him. My dear husband of 45 years passed away in April. So, yeah, another milestone that's, like I said, that new year is sometimes a big milestone for us and a big stumbling block for us emotionally. Idea Factory says mine is resilient. I found a scripture to go with it. Last year I did Leo's channel KJV in a year on YouTube. Oh, that's the one I was just talking about. KJV in a year. Yay. So one of the people here was actually followed my Bible reading. Awesome. When I first started, I was reading it real fast. And then I realized that like I was just trying to get through it real quick instead of actually taking in what I was reading. And so I had to really train myself. It took me a couple months to train myself to slow down and just read it and not try to just fly through it so I could get it done. And so it does get better. It starts off really fast. You might have to slow it down, but the reading pace does get better over the next couple of months. So it's still up there, KJV in a year if you want to find it. Excuse me. It is a way to honor my late husband. He read and now I can't think of what that stands for every quarter. Why am I having like a brain fart right now? I cannot, I can't think of it. Anyway, 31 Proverbs. Golly, I'm like, what is PROV? Like, I knew why couldn't I think of it? Anyway, Proverbs. Okay, gotcha. 31 days of decluttering bingo here. Oh, a bingo game. Oh, what a nice idea. I used to do that all the time with my kids when I taught and I was doing like basic skills and we'd do bingo games and they'd get bonus points for winning their bingo. Decluttering bingo, that's a good one. And any other goals, really. And my neck is turning really red. Let's see. Meryl says dealing with John's clothes is hard. Did his shoes and shirts he hardly wore, kept his slippers, and 1 or 2 shirts that he loved. My brothers and brother-in-law appreciated his jumpers and coats. Well, I'm glad that they were able to find new homes and, like you said, keeping the most important ones. And maybe you can just save those pieces and have them turned into sewn into some kind of memorial item or whatever. I've thought about doing them for pay, but when I craft, oh my gosh, I take so long. And the amount of time that it takes me, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and so the amount of time that it takes me to do those kinds of projects, I couldn't charge enough money to make up for the time. And so I would just have to do those things for my own self. I'd have to charge so much money in order to do those just to finish it. It would take me forever that I wouldn't even feel right about charging that kind of money. And I have to be able to make a salary. So I can't sew for money. I'm just not quick enough. And then it becomes a job. So it's like, it's not fun anymore. Janet says, oh, Leo, you are so right. I'm just finding myself so angry at everything. I've never been like this. It just isn't me. Right. Yes. And she was just talking about how our emotions are up and down, I believe. Christy says niacin can cause that flush. I think it's definitely a B vitamin. So I think that must be what it is. I think I get that little bit when I've taken like a B shot. What do they call that? Like one of those little shots, that you drink, but it's nothing but like B vitamins. I can feel that flush in my skin for a few minutes, but this one is obviously a little bit lasting more than that. So I'm going to check which one has the niacin. And that's probably which one it is, because all the things I take are B vitamins. Good afternoon. Tuning in late, says Sharon. I'm glad you're here. I'm afraid I'm going to fall apart. This is my first New Year's without my husband. So Sharon, just, if you can find somebody to spend it with, even if it's online, find somebody to Zoom with you. And just see if they'll, be there so that you don't have to go through it by yourself. And no matter how it goes, it's gonna go, right? And then you're gonna wake up the next day, and we're gonna move on, and we're gonna face the next day. And so just remember, like my mom used to always say, you don't have to do anything but be there. I know that might sound lame, but really, if you take all the responsibility of everything off of your shoulders and know that all you have to do is exist in that moment and just let the moment pass, and then that's it. So see if you can try to just think of it that way. My first New Year's as a widow. Yeah, Raquel says that we have a lot of people in our group that it's their first New Year's Eve as a widow or a widower, and it is a tough one. I do know. Journaling I found helpful, says Northern Belle. Sometimes in our darkest moments, wisdom rises like a phoenix. So I think I totally agree. You can learn so much from your own self, if you write everything down and then you go back and see where you were and you're like, wow, man, I have really come a long way. And so I just encourage you to do something like that. And I always equate it to something like losing weight or growing your hair or, whatever. I have been trying to grow my hair for like 8 months. I had like shaved up underneath if you've seen my old videos or my daily videos that are coming on from an old video, my hair is blonde. It's very short. And I decided to just for one more time before I get too old, I'm going to grow my hair out and just see what happens. It has taken forever. And it's in that in-between stage. But the point is, you look in the mirror every single day when you're waiting to grow your hair out and you're like, yeah, still short. Yep. Still looks the same. This hair has not grown a whole lot in the last 8 months. So you can imagine every day looking in the mirror, it looks the same. But when I look at pictures of myself from before and I'm like, oh, look how short my hair was. Look how long it's gotten now. So now I can see the progress, but it takes me looking back over longer periods of time. Same thing with losing weight. I look and I'm like, I'm never going to lose this weight, and I look back at pictures of myself like on my birthday. That was 3 months ago. Let's see if I can find it on my phone. Look at this. That was me. Can you see it? Yeah. That was me in September. And so I don't know if you can see it gets out of focus, but like my eyes were all swollen shut. My face was all, so I have lost, and I don't know how much I've lost since then, but like when I look in the mirror, I look the same. But when I look back over time, because I've started on this weight loss journey in June. So I've been on it for 6 months, but I've lost like 36 pounds. But it hasn't looked that way for a long time. It's just now starting to look like in my face, that I'm losing a little bit of weight. The point is, if you try to chart your progress, really slow progress, daily or shorter, you're going to think that you're not getting anywhere. You're not going to notice anything. So you have to look at it over longer, snapshots. And the only way you can do that with your mental health and with your emotions is if you write your emotions down so that you'll know mentally where you were in a certain moment in that snapshot of time, and you go back and you read it and you talk about it, right? So my daughter sent me a few months ago, she sent me the transcript of a diary entry that she had written very shortly after her dad died. I think it was like weeks, maybe a month after he died. I can't remember exactly, but she was like, Mom, I just found this and I can't believe what I was feeling and the thoughts I was having at this time. It really, like, she didn't remember any of that stuff. And she gave me permission to read it on one of my videos. So if you want to look back on the channel, it's called When Daddy Died, and it has a picture of her and her dad. And it's just a diary entry that she wrote, and just about her feelings and where she was and what her mind was going through. And it's very insightful. She was 15 at the time, and she's 22 now. But it meant a lot to her to be able to go back and read that and then allow me to read it online and share it with you. It's very emotional, but she was, telling me things that I don't even remember. because she was seeing things from her lens and her point of view, and I was seeing it from my point of view. And so it was just, it was very cleansing and healing. But I'm so glad that she had that we could read it and access it so she could know where she was at that time. Let's see. And last couple, I managed to put away his clothes a month after his passing. My daughter didn't want me to give them away, so I put them in storage boxes from our shared wardrobe to have a fresh start. That's a good idea. Like if you're not ready to actually get rid of them, maybe try bagging them up and putting them out of sight and putting them somewhere else, and then just seeing how that is. That way, if it's too much and it just hurts too much, you can always pull them back out if you need to. And then if you can put them in those bags and put them out of sight for a year, well, maybe then it's time to take them and get rid of them, completely. So the last thing you want is for your family to be saddled with like a bunch of crap to deal with, like literal stuff, in your house, to have to try to go through when you die. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So the more you can streamline and not leave them to have to go through a bunch of all of your stuff and then their dad's stuff or whatever from way back, the better, right? And so Idea Factory says I've decluttered holiday decor items, and then I go through it again July. Less is more. So there you go. What a good idea. So even now, like if you're getting ready to take down the tree and there's ornaments that don't bring you joy, that don't mean anything to you, that you don't care about keeping or whatever, then, declutter, get rid of them, give them away, donate them, sell them, trash them, whatever the case might have to be. Right. All right. So that's going to be my lesson for the day. Talk about how to go into the new year. I'll be thinking about all of you in our private group that we'll be having a New Year's celebration tomorrow night at midnight, my time, which is not quite midnight a lot of their time because I'm on the East Coast, but I couldn't stay up till 3 a.m. So I'm going to be there for anybody in that private group who wants to join me for that. So we'll have a little Zooms, bringing in the new year. It might just be me. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. So the next time that I see all of you for lunch with Leo will be see you next year, as the old adage goes, and we're going to start a new one, and we'll just move forward from there. We'll do it 1 week at a time. All right. We're all going to do it together. You're not alone in this. You've got friends. You've got people who care about you. You've got a whole group. If you want to join our Facebook group and you haven't already, feel free to join. And we'll see you over there. If not, then I'll see you next week. Bye.